What is up, everyone? Welcome back or to the Hardcore Fab channel. On today's video, we're getting back to work on old Crow finally. So what I want to try to work on in this video is the bed floor or tonneau cover scenario, whatever you want to call it, that I've got going on back there. I want to try to knock that out in this video, but I'm waiting on a truckload of steel to show up so I can actually get started working on that stuff. So until then, I'm going to work on some of the steering stuff here in the front and get that started. So stick around. We'll see how far we get in this video. Alright, so before we can actually get to work today, we need some parts. So I have picked out this 1970 half-ton two-wheel drive Chevy pickup with a manual power steering box on it down there. It is power steering. It's a manual steering box. I don't know if that's actually going to work or not, but it's the first thing I'm going to try. So I'm going to go ahead and wrench this thing off there, get it back down, and see if we can make it work. Alright, so let me give you guys a quick rundown here of what I'm going to do. Originally, just for reference point, the steering box was in here like this, on the Chevy truck, frame rail right here, going up to the cab. Now, what I'm going to do is actually give this a quarter turn. So we're going to have it mounted like this, and then my frame rail will be here. And I'm going to sit it right on top of the frame rail, and that'll have the steering shaft going up towards the cab. So then I took this arm off because in its original position, it was hanging out here like this because it had to do side-to-side motion with the truck. Now, I need to turn it a quarter turn, and it can go forward and backward motions, which I'm planning on building a rod that'll come off this and go to my front axle. So once that's all said and done, we'll turn here, arm will move this way, that'll steer our front axle. Then to mount the steering box, we've got a drop that was from making our frame rails on the truck originally, and I'll sit that on there, still frame rail going this way, so it'll stack right on top. We'll give this somewhat of an angle cut on there, something like that. Make a plate, that will mount here, and stick it right on there, weld everything all up, and we should be good to go. So now I'm going to put this all together and figure out my angles and see if I can make this work. And just like that, plans change. So I'm not going to be able to actually put this in here at an angle with the steering box here pointing up towards where I want the steering wheel to be. I think I'm going to have to leave it flat just like it is right here. And the reason being is with this arm, right now it's in the location where it would be if I was full locked to the driver's side. So with that arm being laid back like that, if we got in that situation and we had it laid down more, it's not going to really have much pulling power. We need it to be past center just a little bit, more like it is right there, so that once it does start to turn and pull that around, it'll have enough pulling power to actually steer the front of the truck. Not a big deal, just a little bit of a design change, so I'm going to have to figure it out something like this, and I'm probably going to have to get a U-joint, which I was probably going to have to get a U-joint anyways, so I'll probably just have to leave this now for another day. Alright, so I got my metal in. I've got a piece of square tubing here on the floor that is inch by inch. That's 1/8 wall. That is going to be my main stringers. That's going to go down the whole length of this right on top of the frame rails. Then I've got some 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch 16 gauge that I'm going to use to build the rest of the skeleton in here for the rest of the floor. And then I've got a piece of 18 gauge here that I'll use to deck it all. So let's get started. Alright, so you guys are kind of starting to get the feel of how this is going to lay out here and everything. Now that I've got all this stuff in here, I was kind of starting to think about how I'm going to do my hinge, and I have the piano hinge that I bought before that I was going to use up here in the front. But after I was sitting here looking at it for a little bit, I think the scenario that might be a little bit better is on that front bar up there. Weld a nut here to the end of the square tubing and just run a bolt right through there, right through the side of the bed. It can pivot right off that, and that'll actually allow it to swing all the way up and just rest on the back of the cab when I need to work on it and service or access anything through here that's a major job. I think that'll be pretty slick, so let's make it happen. Alright, before we weld this whole thing up, let's make sure it pivots. It should. Tailgate's got a corner that is sticking out just a little bit right there. Got a fix for that. Maybe. Well, that's what our frame is going to start to look like here. I think we'll go ahead and take a 1/8 or 1/16 or something like that off the end of these ones going this way, and that'll give me just a little more clearance on the tailgate. Make it easier for later on down the line when it's actually sheeted and there's not going to be much to grab a hold of. Yeah, we're almost done with this deal here. I did a couple things off camera real quick, so let me grab it and I'll show you what I did to get to this point. So right off the bat, we've got the strut in here. All I did to mount the strut was grab a couple of these universal 10mm balls, drill and tap right there into the frame. Same way right there onto the framework of the cover. Then I've picked up a couple of these. This is kind of a sneak peek here. I was going to use these for the hood, but since I had them here already and I was trying to figure out a way to latch this thing, I went ahead and stuck them in back here to latch the cover. What it is there's a pin here and then there's a piece here that actually clips onto that little ball. So if we were to get in here and be perfectly level, you could see that that little cap is actually going to be in the sheet metal part of this cover. To get it off, you just push the button and it comes off. So when everything closes, it will click right on there, and that's going to grab hold and keep our cover from coming up. Thought it was a pretty sweet little deal. I put one of those on the other side as well. At least I've got a hole for it on the other side as well. But I don't have it in there because that one's kind of a pain to get in and out, and I've got to take this thing all back apart. So no sense in doing that one just yet. So I think I'm ready to pull this thing off and sit it over on the table and cover it with some of that sheet metal. Well, shoot. I thought I was about done with this deal, but turns out that one shock won't hold it up. So, I've already got the other shock and I've got the balls. Not a big deal. I was planning on putting them on to begin with. I just thought for a second when I had just the framework here that I was going to be able to get away with it, only having one, because it was holding it up pretty good then. Turns out, can't, so not a big deal. I'll throw those on there real quick and we can see what this thing looks like when it's all done. Alright, let's try this one more time. Sweet. Heck yeah, that actually finishes up the whole back half of this thing as far as fab work goes. Of course, we've got a little bit of plumbing and some paint and some other things to do back here, a little bit of wiring. But overall, fab work on the back half is done. So that's awesome that it's finally checked off of our list. That's one step closer to getting this thing out on the street and having some fun. Now, as far as this cover goes, super stoked about the way that turned out. I think it's awesome. It's plenty of room in here to access everything, of course, when we got this thing popped up. And worst case scenario, if I do have to work on the air system up there in the front, I can just pop these struts loose back here at the back and flip this cover up towards the cab. So it'd be like it's not even there. So, really happy about the way all that turned out. I think it looks pretty sick. I was going to do wood, a bunch of you guys mentioned wood, but I think wood would have kind of been a little bit of a cop-out, and it does not leave this whole entire area right here that we can still do some stuff with. So I've got something exciting coming up for you guys on that. I can't wait to make that video, and it'll be coming out here fairly soon. Keep your eyes out for that. And with that, I guess that's all I got for you guys today in this video. So, I guess I'll see you next time.